Despite its name, the Gotrax GMAX Ultra is not really ultra, nor can it really be considered the max in any category. This is a basic middle-of-the-road electric scooter at a middle-of-the-road price, though do not ride this in the middle of the road, that would be dangerous. Jokes aside, this is a reasonably priced scooter that more or less gives you what you pay for. It doesn't quite deliver on everything it claims in its marketing and on its Amazon page, but there was nothing that surprised me about it, neither good nor bad. It's currently priced at $900 on Amazon, putting it in that quote-unquote luxury tier of entry-level scooters. The competition is pretty fierce in this price range, so I'll compare the GMAX Ultra to other scooters at a similar price later in the review. To start off, the most important aspect of any scooter is build quality, and this simple, straightforward design makes for a solid, stable scooter that I've been confident in while testing. It also gets the folding mechanism correct, a key part of stability while riding. I'm seeing more and more scooters with this dual latch mechanism, and I'm a big fan of it. This design makes latch failure very unlikely and is still easy and quick to operate, making folding and unfolding the scooter a breeze. The handlebar latch for securing the scooter when folded is also simple and straightforward, with just a bit of play when it's latched. The handlebars don't move around enough for it to be an issue while carrying it though. It weighs about 45 pounds, which is actually quite reasonable to carry upstairs or onto public transportation or wherever you might need to carry it. This scooter is capable of flat ground speeds of up to about 20 miles an hour, driven by the 350 watt rear hub motor. Acceleration from 0 up to the top speed takes about 8 seconds, making for a fun but approachable acceleration curve. Hill climbing capabilities are typical of a single motor scooter, handling gentle hills fine but struggling on steeper hills. My usual test hill slowed the scooter down to under 10 miles an hour at its steepest point, which matches up to other similar scooters I've tested. Definitely consider looking at dual motor scooters if you ride in a very hilly area. This is a kick to start only scooter, meaning that you need to get the scooter moving before the throttle will activate. I'm not a fan of kick to start scooters, and I think every scooter should have a zero start option. However, I usually don't heavily criticize lower power scooters for not having a zero start option. The issue is that this scooter has the most finicky, inconsistent, annoying kick to start I've ever dealt with. This is by far my biggest complaint with this scooter, so let me explain. Normally kicking off and pressing the throttle is a fairly natural motion for taking off with kick to start scooters. Many scooters even allow you to hold down the throttle while you kick off, engaging the throttle once you get rolling at the correct speed. Not only does the GMAX Ultra not allow you to do that, but there is also a super awkward delay between kicking off and when the throttle is available to activate. You only need to get it up to 2 miles an hour technically to activate the throttle, but the delay between actually moving and the scooter recognizing that you are moving is too large to make taking off a fluid motion. I found myself kicking off, pressing the throttle, and then nothing happening way too many times for the first couple days of riding. I initially thought it was because I wasn't going fast enough for the throttle to work, so I would do this awkward double push off when I was first testing the scooter. The way you have to do it is push off without touching the throttle, get on, wait long enough for the scooter to recognize that it's moving, and then engage the throttle. This is definitely annoying, but it is also definitely a nitpick from someone who has tested lots of different scooters, and it's not something that I think would be super noticeable to the average rider or to a first-time rider, so take my complaint with a grain of salt. It rides on 10-inch pneumatic tires. They appeared to be tubed, though Gotrax doesn't specify this anywhere that I can find. Pneumatic tires are nice for some small shock absorption in the absence of suspension, but tubed pneumatic tires are a huge headache when it comes to flat tires and flat tire repair. I know from experience that punctures, pinch flats, and valve tears are way too common on tube tires. This also doesn't have split hubs that would allow easy tube or tire changes. Keep this in mind if low maintenance is high on your priority list for a scooter, and potentially consider looking for a scooter with solid or tubeless pneumatic tires. Maintenance aside, the ride quality of the GMAX Ultra is decent for a scooter without suspension. The lack of suspension is actually a positive for weight and portability, and for minimizing the amount of moving parts that could have issues. I did a decent amount of dirt trail riding with the scooter, and while it's clearly not meant for this type of riding, it does okay on slightly rough terrain if needed. Cruise control is activated by default after maintaining constant speed for 8 seconds. I usually deactivate cruise control on all my scooters after trying it once for testing purposes, but for the first time ever I actually found myself using the cruise control regularly. This cruise control system is nice because rather than requiring a specific button press or some shenanigans with the throttle, you can just ride normally and it seems to activate at just the right times on long stretches of straight road. Some other cruise control systems function in a similar way, activating after maintaining the same speed for a period of time, but they always seem to activate after just a couple seconds. 8 seconds seems to be a good amount of time to maintain speed for cruise control activation, staying off when your speed fluctuates, but activating when you need it for extended periods of constant speed. The scooter has 2 riding modes, 1 and 2, to adjust the top speed. The riding mode is switchable on the fly via the handlebar mounted buttons and display. The lower riding mode, or mode 1, caps your speed at 15 miles an hour, though acceleration seems unaffected by which mode you're in. The handlebar setup is standard with a thumb throttle on the right side and the power button and display controls, as well as the brake lever on the left side. The single brake lever controls both the rear mechanical disc brake and the electronic braking of the motor. Despite the dual braking system, the brakes are a bit underwhelming and braking distances in my testing have not been that great. One of the big marketing points that Gotrax hits on for this scooter is its supposed 45-mile long-range capabilities. Well, it was honestly no surprise that I got just a fraction of that in my range test. In Mode 2 riding, I got 13.7 miles of range, not even a third of what's advertised. The scooter even died at a lower altitude than where I started, meaning that there was more downhill than uphill in my range test, and I still didn't even get 14 miles. I understand that their advertising is supposed to be its max range, riding in the lower speed mode in ideal conditions, but they really over-exaggerated it. I honestly wouldn't even be mad because based on other similar scooters I've tested, 12 to 15 miles of range is really typical for scooters like this. It's just that most companies don't advertise more than 3 times the range that I actually get. The scooter has 2 security measures built into it, both of which are much better in theory than in practice. The first is a digital lock that requires a code every time you turn on the scooter. I've never liked these because it just makes it really annoying to turn on and use, and it doesn't discourage someone from just walking up and grabbing the thing and running off with it. You absolutely need a physical lock for a scooter this small and light. That's where this built-in lock is supposed to come in. Again, theoretically, having this built-in wire lock makes locking the scooter easy and quick, but to lock up your scooter for any extended period of time, you're still going to need a real lock. I have liked using the built-in lock for quick grocery store trips just to make it hard to run away with the scooter, but anyone with a pair of wire snips could grab the scooter in a couple seconds. Overall, this is a solid scooter that gives you a solid build and decent speed for under $1,000, but there are a few other scooters to consider at this price. The big one is the Niu KQi3 Pro. For $100 less, you get very similar specs in a better looking package, plus tubeless tires. The Segway F40 is another scooter with very similar specs for $130 less, and again, I think it's better looking and is the most well-reviewed scooter of these 3. Basically, this scooter does a decent job of doing what it needs to, and I generally do like it, but for me it doesn't do enough to stand out at the price or justify the additional $100 to $150 over other similar scooters. What do you think? Is there something that you particularly like about this scooter? Let me know down below. If you want to check out the GMAX Ultra or the other scooters I mentioned, all the links will be down below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.